Hello dear learners. In continuation to our video on squares and square roots, we will now be practicing some common square roots and we will also be studying some properties of square roots. In this symbol, you are now aware that this radical sign without an index mentioned is automatically a square root. You may mention a 2 or you can skip writing 2 over here. It automatically means a square root. Now, square root of some common numbers. Students, you have already studied the squares of numbers and you've learned them from 1 to 30. So let's just recall the square roots. Square root 36 is 6. Square root 64 is 8. So let's quickly now do them. 10, 13, 9, 17, 12, 14, 16, 15, 3, 1, 0, 7, 11 and 5. I hope you could also think the answers in your head while I was speaking them. Dear students, you must note that I have only shared with you the principal square root, that is the positive square root. Now, the properties of square roots can be easily understood through this chart. So let's take them one by one. The first property, the square roots of odd numbers are odd. Can you see them? And the square root of even numbers are even. Now let's talk about the units digit. The square roots of numbers ending with 1 either end with a 1 or a 9. Similarly, the square roots of numbers ending with 4 either end with 2 or 8. The square roots of numbers ending with 9 either end with a 3 or a 7. What about the square root of numbers ending with 6? They end with a 4 or a 6. So the units digit over here is very important. And the square root of numbers ending with 0 will end with 0. And the units digit of the square root of the numbers ending with 5 is 5. Now one more interesting thing over here, students. The square root of numbers ending with 0. First of all, the square root, these numbers which are perfect squares will have zeros occurring in pairs, but their square root will have the number of zeros equal to the number of zeros in the square divided by 2. For instance, 2500 contains 2 zeros. The number of zeros will occur in pairs. So the 2 zeros divided by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that pair will split up and you will only have 1 zero in the square root. Alright students, one more interesting observation over here. Just in easy memorization. Do you see the square of 12 is 144? If you reverse 12, you get 21 and the square also gets reversed. So do you see 21 square is 441? Square of 12 is the reverse of the square of 21, where 12 and 21 are reverses of themselves. Can you observe one more number over here in the table showing a similar pattern? Yes, we have 13. 13 square is 169. Reverse of 13 is 31. And the reverse of 169 is, yes, 961. Okay, one more observation, students, I can share over here. And this is a useful technique. Can you observe the squares of numbers ending with 5? Here, the squares of numbers ending with 5 have an interesting pattern. And we can now easily calculate the squares of numbers ending with 5. So let us just take 25 for instance. So what you can do is 25 square. To find out the square of a number ending with 5, we can break it into two parts. The first part being 5 and the second part being the rest of the number. 5 square is 25. and the rest of the number should be multiplied with its successor. So 2 into 3, that is 6. So the square of 25 is 625. Is it correct? Yes. So let's validate it for 45. 45 square divided into two parts. So 5 square would be 25 and 4 would be multiplied with its successor, that's 5. So 4 5s are 20. So 2025 is the square. Isn't it interesting? So can you now quickly tell me the square of 65? The square of 65 would be 4225. Does it make sense? Yes. What about 115? Divided into two parts. 5 square is 25 and the remaining number with its successor. So 11 into 12, that is 132. So 13,225 is the square of 115. So students, this is a Vedic maths technique that can help you to take out the squares of numbers ending with 5. Okay, now the next thing over here is some practice. So this practice worksheet would be shared with you and you are supposed to do it in your register. And this one will also be shared. Kindly do them in your register. A quick recap of the square roots of these common numbers. Let's have the answers in your mind as I speak. Kindly check. So the first one, 11, 4, 9, 1, 2, 7, 10, 5, 12, 3, 6, 8. That's all for today. Happy learning.